funding, but let me qualify that ever so slightly. We don't get the kind of funding that UMOM would get, that we might have a lot of federal reporting and different things or restrictions on who we can serve. We might get a grant, a small grant from the city of Glendale for serving their residents or something like that. But a source of government funding that I want to make sure I mention is something called the Arizona Charitable Tax Credit. Do folks know about that? I'm so glad to see a lot of heads nodding, because I have to put a plug in here so that you know about it and you can tell your friends about it. I'm a big advocate. I know UMOM receives it, Mission of Mercy, we receive it, and the Arizona Charitable Tax Credit is a way that you can defer your state tax dollars directly to a nonprofit that qualifies, that serves the working poor. They call it the charitable tax credit. It used to be called the working poor tax credit. It's entirely separate if you give a gift to the schools, the public or private schools, and it's separate than the foster care tax credit. I don't know if you have the foster care one or what you have at UMOM, but in any event, those are tax deferred dollars, and not as many people as could take advantage of that are taking advantage of it, and the amounts went up this year to $400 for individuals, $800 for married couples. So I am a fundraiser, so I had to put that in there, and you can find this information on our websites, and would ask you to consider that, because it costs you nothing. As long as you pay some Arizona taxes, it costs you nothing.
So the last question I'm going to ask, and just very briefly, because I'm going to allow a few minutes for questions. The last question I'm going to ask is, does anyone have a success story that they'd like to share? Now I know that the names have to be changed and it is confidential, but is there anything that stands out in your mind, brief, so that we can let our wonderful audience here ask questions? Yes, going to.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I got to tell one because of Aneesah. When Governor Napolitano was governor, this state was turning away 2/3 of the women in Maricopa County, 2/3 of the women and children, turning away from who were escaping domestic violence. We weren't housing 2/3, we were turning away 2/3. And Lisa Glow was a special advisor to Governor Napolitano, and I tell this success story because she convened a few key leaders, and I happened to be in that room to talk about what are we going to do about this. Well, it took a while, but there were 3 paragraphs. Now, believe this or not, 3 paragraphs in a governor's state speech that said, we are going to end this. Every woman and child who escaped domestic violence will have a safe place. Language like that in a state of the state speech. It was magnificent. It was magnificent. And that woman and a few of us working with Governor Napolitano helped shape that policy and helped get to a point where essentially every woman had a place. Now, I don't think we're still there, but essentially we got to that place. So when somebody was standing at 2:30 in the morning with that image that's burned into my head, standing at that phone booth, standing with her 2 kids hanging onto her legs, and she's escaping. She had a place that said, yes, we'll pick you up in 10 minutes. And Lisa was a part of that. And a success story that we went from 2/3 being turned away to essentially every woman and child having a place. Now, at the moment now think of this, at the moment we were turning away, it was enough women and children to fill the Sun Stadium, every seat. Imagine that, every seat filled with somebody turned away. Now, all those seats are empty and are filled with, well, they're not filled. But so when you ask success stories, I say, and I was a small part of them, and I was engaged because of the work I was doing. But it depends upon who's in government and who we elect, and maybe that's my final point. But that's a success story, and I tell it about her.
Well, that's fun. That's a past success story.
Yes.
Right.
That is no longer the case.
Yeah.
Understand that when the model is to operate government key constituencies that are left out of the mix. Key constituencies that are left out of the mix. And so part of our job is to make sure that we're advocating on behalf of those who otherwise aren't even on the radar screen. Okay, a success statistic. 90% of our families, after they leave the shelter, when measured 12 to 15 months out, are not back in the shelter. Now, a disturbing statistic. At this time a year ago, on average, we had about 50 families needing shelter for whom we didn't have it at the moment. And so there might be a 2 or 3 day wait before they could get in. Now it's 150 families. So we are failing. We are failing the folk that are at the bottom of the socioeconomic ladder. Okay? One of the issues before us will be whether or not we're going to raise the minimum wage. Now, the studies I've seen say that you really need to have $15 an hour to have a livable wage. And so, $12 would be a step in the right direction. A typical story, Monday night at the shelter, mom and dad with their 2 children, they'd spent 5 nights sleeping in the car before we could get them into a temporary family emergency shelter. Both mom and dad had worked their whole lives, both of them earning between $9 and $10 an hour, but they needed both of the incomes to be able to pay the bills. Mom was injured on the job. There was no support for her financially when she could no longer work. And they needed both of the incomes to be able to make the apartment rent, couldn't do it, were evicted. Do you know that this was reported by National Public Radio in 90% of our states, and I don't know what the case is in Arizona, maybe one of you will, but in 90% of our states, families who are evicted have no right to legal counsel, but the landlords do.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry to hear that, Dr. Kelly. We got to work on it. A couple of success stories. One is that of a woman who's a mother, I think she's a mother of 3, undocumented resident. Her husband's a citizen, but she was undocumented. And they became what we call legal shield members. She was driving home, got stopped by the police, and it was a couple of years ago, so we know what was going on. I think it was SB 1070. And they had just gotten legal shield, 24/7 access. She was able to pick up the phone, dial in, get access to an attorney. The attorney spoke to the police. She was able to go home to her babies. Had she not had that, she probably would have been detained. Another is a story of 3 single women. So they, in different times, these women came to know about me and were referred to me. And one of them was in a really bad marriage, so she was able to get the service and is now getting some guidance and advice about that. Another woman just walked in and she said, before I walked in, I felt like I had such a burden on my shoulders. Now that I have legal shield, I feel like I at least have access to get some of the things that I need to get addressed. And you could see her go from like this to, Another situation was that of a woman who husband was threatening her to take her children in a domestic violence situation. Basically, she was an immigrant, and he was basically saying, as a citizen, I can do this. And, I can do basically whatever the heck I want to do. And she didn't know if legally he could. But having access, she was able to pick up the phone and call and get an answer, which empowered her to be able to make decisions that she wouldn't have been able to make. Those are just some of the stories that are important to share. And there are going to be some people who can't afford $20 a month. I know that. But we can collectively assist them with $20 a month, which we cannot usually collectively assist them with $300 a month. That's $300 an hour. So just something to think about.
Let's give our panelists all a warm Hasn't this been insightful? And yeah, we have this 1:45, so we have just a tad of time for questions, because our executive director Larry will give me the hook, just as Paul did, and say, hey, I've got announcements I need to make. So who has a question for any of our panelists? Right back in the back there, Ed.
How many empty homes are there in Phoenix?
Oh, that's a good question. How many empty homes are there in Phoenix? Does anyone know the statistic on that? Pardon? Yeah, real estate, empty homes. We don't know the answer to that, Ed, but it is a really good question.
Mainly rhetorical.
Yeah.
So the most important social justice issue in the world that you've all ignored is the abortion holocaust. Right today, the world is in the midst of the worst genocide in our human history, worse than all the wars put together. More than 1.7 billion unborn children have been aborted. At least 1.5 billion of those were non-emergency, unnecessary, and could have been prevented, and they could all be happy children today, but we've chosen to kill them. And so I'm wondering what your faith traditions are doing for them to give them a voice of social justice.
Okay, so the question is regarding abortion, and if your faith traditions have a particular viewpoint on that.
As you all know, the Catholic tradition is very clear about that whole issue, including Catholic Charities agencies providing a variety of services. I think the Catholic population, based on the latest surveys, is divided about this. It's about half and half now. About half of the Catholic population itself is pro-choice, and then in the older sense of pro-life.
So as part of the Muslim tradition, or the Islamic tradition, abortion is certainly an area of concern, because we value life from pre-conception as well. But we're not doing, I don't know about a lot of activities in that regard in particular. There's so much that we have to deal with regard to the hate crimes and Islamophobia and all the other issues, that I can't identify a specific organization or activity that I can direct you to at this time. But it's something that I'll look into.
Well, the population that I serve, the issue isn't abortion. The issue is pregnancy, counseling, contraception.
Promiscuity.
Well, I don't know what, by promiscuity, how do you define that? 80% of our families are single moms with kids. 2/3 of the moms have experienced domestic violence. And so we have a lot of fathers who are not in the lives of the children they fathered, nor in the life of the mother, who often feels like she had to exit. So we need to do more in terms of contraception, sex education, pregnancy counseling, safe sex, in terms of the client look that I'm serving right now.
But 90% of the abortions are non-emergency.
So, sir, you asked for a response, and graciously you are getting one from their faith perspective. You asked for it from their faith perspective, not. So let us let them respond. So thank you so much. And then we will go have one time for one more question after that brief question, and then we're going to go to Larry, because otherwise You know what's going to happen to me. You don't want me to get the hook, right? I can see it already there.
From Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, I see a very holistic issue there that we do address with our sex ed, and it's not even called sex ed, it's sexuality and health education. And so the whole spectrum of what relationships look like, what family planning can look like, what, specifically around the access to decision making and the access to consent and the access to all kinds of things that come with the lives of women and their bodies and the relationships that they are in. There's a whole bunch to be addressed with that, and I think what we try to do is like I said, starting from kindergarten, we're doing as comprehensive as we can in a sexuality and health education curriculum that sets individuals and potential relationships up for success as far as knowing how to have good communication and knowing how to understand what's going on with our bodies and knowing how to navigate a world that has so much media and so much pressure to behave in certain ways and look certain ways. I mean, all of that stuff that influences how we act in the world as sexual beings needs to be addressed in our faith traditions, I think. And so as far as where Unitarian Universalism comes down on it, we see it as an opportunity to really embrace all that is in our humanity and all that is in our sexuality and let people live the lives that they want to live and be able to make the choices they need to make to have healthy families and have the best quality of life they can possible as a human being. So that's what I say.
Okay. If there are no other questions, did you guys learn something today? Who learned something, right? We learned about some agencies and organizations and things that people are doing in our community that are so cool. So I invite you to take this information to your communities, to help them become aware of it, share it with share the video with your community. And I want to let you know about our upcoming faith forums. They're going to be on different days. They're going to be the next one will be Wednesday, October the 20th, because in case you're unaware, this October coming up, all of the holidays that in the Jewish tradition that are often in September or November have decided to come in and be in October. And so made scheduling a little challenging. And so our next faith forum is Wednesday, October the 20th, right here. It's entitled I Say a Little Prayer. And we're going to learn about different ways, different faith traditions pray and or meditate. And we are also, yes, it's Thursday, right? Yes, thank you. Thank you for spotting that, because you know what? I've done that before. Thank you, I can see people. No, it's not a Wednesday.
It's on the program.
Thursday. It's on the program. And we're also going to have each of the panelists, and we're hoping we're going to have a lot of panelists from our Interfaith Forum this time, who will offer up prayers from their own faith traditions for the upcoming election. Wow, cool, huh? I already received one from one of our Hindu representatives who can't be here, and it's such a beautiful prayer. So please come, be a part of that, be a part of the energy of that, be a part of the prayer of that on Thursday, October 20th. The forum after that is Thursday, November 10th. And that's going to be on holy days and sacred celebrations, just as we go into Christmas for some of us, and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah. We're going to learn about some of the other traditions and holidays that go on, the holy days. So I hope you'll stay around and meet our panelists. Please, right after Larry speaks, allow all of the panelists and I, before you rush the stage to meet them, and sign up for all of the wonderful things that they're doing and find out how your congregation can get involved. Please allow us time for a photo first. We're going to go and find another location because this location over here doesn't seem to work so well. So now, Larry is itching to take the floor and tell us about some wonderful upcoming events that are going on.
Thank you, Mitzi. Wow, hasn't this been wonderful? Absolutely phenomenal. I really appreciate you folk taking the time to come and inspire us, inform us, instruct us, and I've learned every time I come to these, I learn so much, and I'm so grateful. And Mitzi, for you and all you do to make this happen. We do have some events coming up that I just want to talk very briefly about. One is our youth conference that's coming up, and it's coming this, the end of this month, September the 30th, October 1st, at ASU. It will be a group of people from U of A, from Northern Arizona, ASU, Grand Canyon, some of the local high schools that are putting together a youth conference called Amplify Interfaith. And it's young people who are coming together, understanding the principle and the purpose of interfaith. We're excited about that. It's our own young people that are doing it. So we invite you to join us and be a participant in that. And that's at ASU at Memorial Union on Friday and Saturday. We have October 27th called Experience Interfaith. If you've never been to that, you really need to go. This is an exciting event where you're going to learn a lot about different faith groups. And you'll discover, as somebody said, how much we have in common. And one of the things we have in common is the Golden Rule. And most of the holy books and sacred writings, the principle of the Golden Rule is there. And that's what we stand for as the fundamental principle upon which we build our understanding and bridging gaps and so forth. So these events that we have are sponsored by the Arizona Interfaith Movement, but they do cost money. You understand that. Now, I'm not going to take an offering, so you're okay. But I'm going to ask you to buy a license plate, because that does help us defray our expenses. It's $25 additional, but there's a wonderful message on here that says, live the Golden Rule. And so you can just be a billboard out there, driving around, and you're amazed what it does for your driving record when you have that. We have some calendars here. They're just about outdated, but it does give the holy days of the year for all the different faith groups that are involved in our organization. So you might want to get those. We have books, and you can become a member of our organization for a mere price of $25 a year. Now, our calendars are free, but we will take donations of $100 or more for that. And I'm really just kidding.
Yes,
The new one's coming out. Experience Interfaith, the new one will be out.
Yeah, and Experience Interfaith, the new calendars will be out. We have a couple of community events that are going to be happening, and I just want to share with you. First is the Christian Science Organization having conflict resolution. It's a spiritual approach to conflict resolution. It'll be held on Sunday, October the 23rd, and Joy and Jenny back here will have information for you, and you can get that as well. And then we have the Holocaust Memorial Museum is doing fueling extremism in a violent world. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock at the Jewish Community Center, and Nancy will give you more information about that if you want that. Thank you again for coming. Thank you, panelists, again, for the excellent job you've done. Yes, and Ed.
I'd just like to say that the community events can be on our website if you'd like to submit them. Some of them that are mentioned now have been put up there. On your flyer, acifm.org is our website, and under events is a different calendar events, and community events is one of them. So you're welcome to share those there if you like, and also access them.
And one other thing, these are all free events. Don't cost you anything.
It's actually fueling extremism in a wired world. And this is being brought to people all over the country at different places. It'll be at the Jewish Community Center tomorrow night at 7. But it's asking the question, how do we as individuals and organizations and faith communities stand up against the use of social media to be a tool of extremism and hate in our country? I think it's very topical and it fits in with everything we did today. So I've got the telephone number for you to register if you want to get it off my cell phone before you leave.
Scottsdale Road.